Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be doing one of the more interesting and very, very dangerous maneuvers to do in a helicopter, and that is a zero-speed auto-rotation. When you're first learning this maneuver, when you always want to get yourself a little bit of altitude, again, is going to be very, very beneficial for you. So for those of you familiar with helicopters, when we do a conventional auto-rotation, we have forward speed, which is very, very safe to us because it's basically going to give us that little bit of momentum to keep that big old rotor above our head going so we can stay nice and cool during the maneuver. The downside, of course, was, we still got to find a safe spot to land, got to put it down. Now, what happens when we're sitting here in a conventional hover? I've got myself looking out the window here, enjoying the sights, and all of a sudden the engine shuts off, and oh boy, oh no, what are you going to do? We run into a bit of a situation. That's okay, though, because believe it or not, we do have enough altitude in order to get enough forward speed to be able to execute a landing. It is not going to be the world's smoothest landing, mind you. It's simply going to be an interesting exercise in our process. Now, one thing you got to remember, too, whenever we're doing stuff like this, is that you can do this at a higher altitude, and then you can always practice coming down to a lower altitude and disengaging the maneuver rather than smacking into the ground. The big thing here, too, is you got to remember when you've lost your engine, you're going to have to work very, 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 very quickly for the purposes of basically catching it. If we were to just leave the collective all the way up, of course, you'd start slowing down, and then you get into a really nasty rotation, and it would make things very, very messy for you. So the first thing we're going to do when we lose our engine naturally, we're going to slowly reduce the collective, firmly, however, because we don't want to do it too quickly, because you end up chopping your own tail off. And then what we're going to do is get a little bit of forward motion, go into a running landing, and then use the last bit of collective to basically catch us right before we hit the ground there. It's one of those maneuvers, if you practice it enough, it's not too bad. The first couple times it happens to you, make sure you do this in a helicopter that you kind of trust, or you do it with altitude. So anyway, let's go ahead and execute out the maneuver here. A couple different ways we could do this. Of course, we could pull the throttle like that, but unfortunately, a flight sim is going to kind of catch it. That's one of the downsides. What a lot of people will do instead is they'll actually push a button that'll basically shut down all your different components here. So what I have is a button on my setting to actually kill the collective. So all I'm going to do is pull it down, and we're losing. There's the engine. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Nose down. Pull it out the last second. Right foot. Oh! Not the best landing, but what we did here is you probably observed that I was able to basically conserve that last bit of momentum in the rotor for the purposes of getting us going once again. So I'll restore my engine to a working condition here. I'll go ahead and slam my mixture control back up there. It looks pretty good. Sorry, skids, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply power again. Get ourselves up a little bit of altitude. I feel so sorry for this helicopter. I've mangled this thing so many times, it's not even funny. So again, the process is going to be, we're going to lose power. We're going to cut the collective gently, but quickly. We're going to let it come down right before we hit the ground. We're going to smoothly apply right foot in collective to suck the last energy out of the rotor blade. Again, a lot of it is just learning how to time this correctly. With altitude, of course, it's not as scary because we have the ability to basically pitch the nose over. And now when we pitch the nose over, we can get that forward speed going, which makes it a much easier maneuver to execute. But again, for this is just part of the fun, as they say. So again, I'm going to go ahead and damage my engine. Let me stabilize my hover a little bit here. We can get a little bit better. There we go. So let's go ahead and stabilize and kill my engine here. Again, you have to identify very quickly when your engine has failed. And there goes the engine. I'm going to go ahead and cut the collective smoothly. Come on down. I'm going to push my right foot forward at the last second. Full collective. Oh! That was close. But you could see there that by conserving the momentum in the blade, re-engaging it and getting really hard on that right foot, as you saw there, will enable you to actually safely get yourself back down here. Even though this should have been a pretty fatal situation, we still made it work, which is one of those things that's so darn cool about it. And another one of those reasons why, helicopters, as intimidating as they are, there are ways to do it if you're expecting and kind of paying attention to urgencies like that. Now, what happens when you're at a higher altitude? Interesting puzzle with a higher altitude is even though you're effectively at a hover, and again, hover's all relative as anybody who flies helicopters would tell you, the cool thing here is the fact that we have room and we can actually maneuver the helicopter. So even when we've lost our engine, we can actually build up that forward speed, which makes for a much safer auto-rotation. Let's try it. So right now I've got myself in kind of a rough hover. It's not the world's best hover here, but it's a good enough. Go ahead and start the process of shutting my engine down here. And here we go. Engine's out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and gently push forward. And all I'm going to do is build up some power here. And I'm going to leave my collective about a quarter of the way up. I don't want to unload the rotor blade. If we unload the rotor blade, that's going to go really badly for us. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fly coordinated here and make my way to something nice and soft. Looks pretty good to me. You can hear everything spinning down. That's a pretty good speed. That's kind of our best glide right there. Looking around, the grass is looking pretty good. I don't really want to land on tarmac if I can help it. Again, what I'm trying to do is keep my rotor RPM somewhat up. Starting to get a little slow. That's okay. There's some trees. Trees are okay. We're going to get ourselves close to the ground. We're going to start pushing the right foot forward. And we're going to hold ourselves into a running hover, just like that. And we have ourselves nice and safely on the ground. Enjoy.